how do you want to come in?
Thank you. Minister, you won't perhaps be on top of this because you weren't the Minister previously, but in terms of what's happened over the course of the past 6 years, we had the responsibility deal, which was essentially opt-in. It was an unlevel playing field. It was piecemeal, and you just referred to 2 drinks, which I don't drink, so it's going to have no impact on my diet, whether Lucozade or Ribena changes their formulations. And in terms of where we are now, if I can just follow up from the question from Dr. Whitford, you, I hope, will have seen the Channel 4 dispatches programme. It's only 26 or 27 minutes long, which looks at what was in the draft strategy and what we've got in at the moment. And colleagues will reflect on the individual elements, but there were some really tangible, significant measures which would have made such a difference to ensure that we don't go backwards any further, because you will know that the figures that have most recently come out show that we're not going in the right direction. Our children are getting bigger. And on that basis, you said we've got where we've got, and Duncan said we took the deal we could get. Why didn't you fight harder to ensure that we had all the things in that were in there before, and ensure we had the best possible obesity strategy for the future of our country, and essentially to look after the next generation and ensure that our NHS isn't being burdened by lifestyle-related disease?
Yes, well, I think the point is that this is a childhood obesity strategy, so it is aimed at children. So the point about Lucozade and Ribena reformulating is that it's children who primarily drink those drinks, and so it's really important that they are reformulating the content of those sugary drinks, because it will make a real difference to children's intake of sugary drinks. So it's not really here or there whether you drink those drinks, it is that children drink those.
Well,
so
there'll be some children that don't drink those, but
it is actually a really big win, and it's important that where companies do the right thing, we celebrate it. So I don't think that we should belittle that. We should say well done where it does make a difference. But where it comes to the current figures in terms of the fact that we are going in the wrong direction, the plan has only been in place for 6 months, and so it wouldn't have an impact on those figures yet. Because obviously, you know, it's a generational impact, and so we wouldn't expect those figures to be going in the right direction yet. But you are right that we have to make sure that the measures which are in this obesity strategy do have impact, which we've said they will. We are measuring them and monitoring them, which is why we've put in place a very significant monitoring system, which perhaps Emma and Alison might want to talk to you about, so that we can make sure that we do have the impact that we have committed to, which is up to 20% reduction of obesity over the next decade. We will be reporting up 18 months and 36 months, and we will be monitoring very carefully to make sure that we do achieve the outcomes which we have committed to.
But do you accept, Minister, that in the original draft it said that the cornerstone of the draft plan was to cut childhood obesity by half within the next 10 years? So this reduced ambition of 20%, frankly, is less ambitious and
you
very
can keep
disappointing.
asking me the question for the entire session, but my answer will be the same, that we have the document which we have, and I am committed to delivering what I've got, but also to hanging on to the commitment which is in that we will go further. And I can already demonstrate areas in which we are going further, because we have already had commitments from Sainsbury's and other companies on promotions, and we have also seen movement on advertising, because that is the commitment that the department has made, and we will drive this agenda forward.
Then very quickly, just to conclude, who was the deal with? Who essentially ruled out those other bits in the draft plan that didn't make it to the final strategy?
This is the process that you go through to get a strategy through. I can't point to one single person. I'm sorry.
Which department? If it wasn't yours,
it wasn't an individual department. It was a process that it went through.
Well, it wasn't the Department of Health, because you said that we got what we got, and Duncan said it wasn't Public Health England because we got the deal that we got, which intimates it wasn't the deal that you wanted. So who ultimately made the decision?
I've given you my answer. I'm sorry.
Luciana has asked the question I was going to ask.
Yes. I mean, I would say, whilst I accept that you're focusing on implementation, the job of this committee is scrutiny, and part of scrutiny is right for us to actually try and tease out at what point you would then bring in the parts of the strategy that are missing. So that's what the question is trying to achieve, is because we've heard that there aren't sufficient milestones. How are we going to know where you've got where you want to be?
On the sufficient milestones, this would be a really good point, I think, for us to talk about some of the implementation plans. Would that be helpful at this stage?
Yes, it would. I'd say we're going to talk implementation right at the end, but I just wanted to make the point that, yes, whilst we accept that we have the deal that we have and you're focusing on implementation, we would all agree implementation is important. I would also make the point that the job of this committee is to scrutinise what's missing as well. So anyway, we'll come on to Maggie.